Red One, the latest Christmas fodder. This one with The Rock, Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons. Santa's been kidnapped. We're going to throw in a lot of sci fi and some gags that never come. This movie is an absolute mess. I don't understand. Rotten Tomatoes has an audience score of like 90% of people liking this movie. I have to call bullcrap on this one, man. This movie makes no sense. The Rock was late all the time making this movie, so that is part of the problem because he literally is just walking around looking like he phoned it in. So we have to have like bad dad syndrome. So Chris Evans is this movie's bad dad. We have a scene early on where he's sort of like this tech guy, hacker guy on a mission doing something. Turns out he's stealing some sort of seismic monitoring thing that will lead to them finding the North Pole and being able to kidnap Santa. That being said, it's also, well, he never sees his son. It's like a one night stand with this woman that doesn't look like would ever be with Chris Evans. And they made a kid who doesn't look like would be the offspring of either of those two humans. So the casting is also really strange and really badly done, in my opinion. That notwithstanding, I really don't understand why they use Chris Evans because they wanted to just have this crazy action sequence, which we see in the trailer when they're basically kidnapping him to take him to the North Pole as they've tracked him down and figured out, he is the one that they got to kind of follow the link to get to who kidnapped Santa. Other than that scene, and maybe like a little bit later on, who cares? Like this could have been a better character if it was like maybe a nerdy dad or a mom that left with the kid, or I don't know. It just seems like everything is constructed so badly. All right, The Rock plays Cal. He's sort of like the chief bodyguard monitor of Santa. Early on, Santa is at a mall. They're amongst the people, and there's all these speeches about, the naughty letters anymore. He's going to retire. And you cut to J.K. Simmons back at North Pole, and he's like, they're literally working out together. So if you haven't seen the Chris Pratt Amazon movie Tomorrow War and the way that J.K. Simmons looks for that movie and some of the other things, there's like, was this in J.K. Simmons' contract to just show off how ripped he is and working alongside The Rock? But literally, you're 20 minutes in or so, and it's so boring. There's nothing fun or interesting happening in this movie. 20, 30 minutes. The clock just keeps running and running and running. The trailer also showcases what's supposed to be something that I think could have been kind of fun was the fact that they have these creatures. So beyond just the humans, the E.L.Fs that Dwayne is part of, these sort of like ageless beings that are there to protect and be around Santa. There's gnomes and trolls, talking polar bears, and other creatures. And yet we don't really ever get to bond with any of them. They're not along for the main adventure. They just show up in scenes here and show up in scenes there. It's the director Jake Kasdan who did the Jumanji movie showing off that he kind of knows how to make these creatures, and these are ideas that they came up with. The things that are kind of cool is how they move around and this technology that he has where they're going from one area of the world into another using these portals through toy stores, and he buys like he grabs random toys and they have this ability to enlarge things. Now, the end of the movie is the sequence that should have been at the beginning of the movie and then revisited again, where you see Santa in action of how all of this functions. We saw this with Santa Claus, where you saw how Santa was getting around and doing different things when Tim Allen's character puts on the coat. How does he get in chimneys? How do things move around? We get all of that at the very end of the movie. So this scene and all of this stuff matters more later than it does now. And I think they could have just completely reversed and fixed all of this, and it would have been a lot more fun. So just to elaborate, this is that scene where this was a Hot Wheel car that Chris Evans' character grabbed. And of course, he uses his technology to just make it a large vehicle for them to drive around it. This is our big bad. You don't say her name because it's like Beetlejuice. You say her name, she knows where you are and she can reach you or something. I don't know that I ever cared. She's just mean. She used to date Krampus, who is also in the movie, who at least is explained that we understand who Krampus is, even though I don't think we care about Krampus in the movie either. But at least we told, well, he's a half brother. He believes in like enforcing the naughty side of things. And she's hijacking the Krampus mythology in snow globes to trap all of the naughty kids. And you're like, okay, I don't get it. It's like a bad version of Hella from Marvel versus just some little chic little girl There's no fight scenes. There's nothing. It's just she's just there. Okay. There's a quick shot here of Krampus and what he's like, and they get into basically one of these fight slapping scenes. Then you have shots like this where you actually see how operations work. Lucy Liu is part of that. Here's J.K. Simmons as he's kidnapped in this machine that's helping harness his powers. And then this is the other thing that goes with those talking animals. It's this fighting snowman. Now, this is a sequence that actually is kind of fun, except for the fact that they put so the shrinking ability, the talk, make yourself ant. So think about like Ant-Man, right? The make yourself big, make yourself small effect is literally Dwayne Johnson's character like clicking his heels together. It looks so bad in film. Like maybe this would have sounded fine in script, and then when they did it, you're like, dude, this looks absolutely terrible. It's so stupid that he's banging his heels together to shrink. Or the fight scene is fine. You rip off their noses and they go away. There are so many things wrong with this movie that don't work. There's moments where they shoot for humor and it doesn't land. There's a great effect where you see like a headless horseman who's being interrogated and it just kind of goes by. There's no gag, there's no anything interesting that happens. They have this save Christmas thing. No, you're saying it wrong. Save Christmas thing that's supposed to be set up for a callback at the end of the movie. It doesn't work either. The heartfelt stuff of the father-son thing is this contrived way for them to escape their snow globes when they're trapped, and just don't care about either character. I'm not rooting for him as sort of like a redemptive arc, and the kid isn't on screen enough to feel like he loves Christmas or anything about anything. He's just longing for his dad to be around. But the worst element is the fact that there's just too much going on. Dwayne Johnson's character, it's like, who cares, dude? You're like, I've lost my faith in all this because the adults are terrible at each other. Black Friday, whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, it's weird that this movie is trying to do this now when this has been a problem dating back to the 80s. So it doesn't resonate because it's not like you couldn't point to a Grinchy or a Scrooge type character, let's say in the 50s or the 60s. So it doesn't make any sense that something has happened now that suddenly he's turned off. It's the typical thing they do it in Fred Claus and other movies like, oh, our disgruntled naughty list is now up to 57% or whatever they say. I don't even care. This movie is so flat and void of the things that you need in a holiday film that will last. This is a one and done. It'll end up on streaming. People will see it, say they've seen it. If it lands on cable and it's just playing, it will be okay. It has nothing that resonates with all of the check boxes that make something that people will watch regularly. For instance, it's not funny or goofy. There's no jokes at The Rock's expense in the way of, say, let's say, Jingle All the Way. Like I said, it's void of sort of like, the humor of anti-Christmas and that kind of thing, like Fred Claus does, which would have been fine for the Chris Evans story. It doesn't have any mythology that you can kind of understand or get your head around, like Arthur Christmas does, or many other animated shows have done, where you can at least enjoy all that because it's all done out of order. You have this great sequence at the end of the movie that could have been up front. So at least now you're involved with what the world is. But then they just leave that world and they're just in our world. And just random snowmen show up and then, oh, don't say Gilla's name or whatever her name is. I wrote notes down and I didn't even go for my notes. I'm doing the video sort of like a bucket list thing. It's still in box office and it is going to flop so bad because now you have Wicked, you have Gladiator 2, Bonhoeffer coming out, and it didn't make enough money. It's like it came out at the wrong time. I don't understand why they didn't wait and made a bigger rollout around Black Friday weekend and stuff that would have led into people wanting to see this. And they've jumped the gun on that. I think maybe it's because those other films landed and they felt, well, we get a week in. But I think they just knew they had a bomb on their hands, man. The stuff that the rumors about The Rock being late, I'm not talking about up to 8 hours late on set. All this stuff, I don't know what's happened. I've never really heard stories that kind of painted him as sort of like this type of dramatic person on set or this problem. I don't think he is. I think in real life he's very personal, but maybe he's just bit off too much, and this just kind of become second thought. And I don't know. The studio just threw this out there, and it is a mess. And maybe it should have gone direct to streaming. They're like, listen, we'll just put it in the theaters for a minute. We'll try to get 30, 50, $100 million, whatever, because I knew it was bad. And I think that is a better plan than going directly to streaming. So maybe it'll be a quick flip, but it's going to be a mess for this first go around. So that's my take on it. Let me hear more from you guys. Take care, everybody. I am Pops.